Hi, everybody. Good morning. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, I'm Sydney. Am I saying a new name today? Is it? I saw one name, right? Ramya. K. Are you new? Are you a new student, Kana? Ramya. Ramya, are you there? Or is it someone else?
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. I came into the wrong.
Okay. Fine. No issues. Right. So, is it Harsh? What is it name? I forgot your name. Right. Sridhar. Are you? Is it Sridhar? Ramya, this thing. Okay. Anyways, let me share my screen, people. Okay. The days are 11th. Today is 7th. Okay. So hope you all know that today is going to be a 2 hours class, right? So last class we completed hyperconjugation, right? We even did a problem, right? Maybe we'll start with the question for today, right? Or I can just show you that question, whatever we solved, and then we can move on directly to the next topic. Okay, so this was the question we solved. We took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all free radicals, right? So if you're going to use hyperconjugation, all you have to look for is the number of alpha hydrogens, right? Now in this case, you see that there are 9 alpha hydrogens because this is the carbon having the radical. And as I told you, inductive effect will not work for free radicals because it is not even charged. Hyperconjugation will not even work for carbanions because it is sp3 hybridized. Okay, there is no empty orbital. Only then I can have donation. Right, so all you have to look for is the alpha hydrogens. If it is there, then more stability, right? Fine. So maybe just one question so that you will be able to remember whatever we saw last class. Say, I have or okay, there is another group which is having with this. This is compound number 1. This is a positive charge on this carbon. Say, let me compare it with this one. Okay, now use only hyperconjugation and tell me which is more stable.
So the
One
second
or two.
one.
Okay, now you see that this is the carbon atom, this is alpha, and this is alpha. Basically no alpha hydrogen. None of these carbon atom have any hydrogen in this. Okay, so obviously 2 at least has, this is alpha carbon atom and I have 3 alpha hydrogens. So 2 should be more stable than 1, but in this kind of questions, right, you have to look into the other things also. It's not only hyperconjugation which brings in stability, right? So you see that all these 3 groups are bulky groups, heavy electron donation, plus side, right? So I would say these two are not to be compared. Okay, even if you compare, you will have almost equal stability. Okay, so don't worry about it. All I want you to understand is how do you go for hyperconjugation? More number of hyperconjugating structures, more is the stability. That's all you have to look for. Okay. Anyways, now today is the most important topic of all in GOC, that is your resonance. Okay, now actually I should have taken up this topic in chemical bonding itself, right? Because it is not only going to happen in organic compounds, it is also going to be happening in inorganic compounds. Okay, right. So let me start with the classic example. All right, so let me start with ozone, right? Or maybe little difficult, let me start with something we know already, carbonate ion. Okay, CO3 2 minus. Okay. Now in carbonate ion, I know how the structure looks. I know this is going to be sp3 hybridized carbon. No, not sp3. Anyways, doesn't matter. So 3 are there. So it is going to be sp2 hybridized carbon. Okay. Okay. Before we move on to see what is this and all, right? Let us define resonance. Okay. Now, how the definition of resonance comes is it is the delocalization. I know delocalization, nothing but movement of pi electrons. Now you see, last time in case of hyperconjugation, we defined hyperconjugation as delocalization of CH sigma electrons. If you can remember, only the CH sigma bond can involve in resonance. Okay. Now, sorry, involve in hyperconjugation. I'm so sorry. Right. In resonance, right, what are you seeing is it is the delocalization or movement of what? Pi electrons, not sigma electrons, pi electrons. Okay, now this is the reason why we can even call hyperconjugation as a sigma bond resonance. Generally for resonance, we take only pi electrons or pi bonds. We'll see what are these pi electrons, okay, right? So for resonance, we take pi electrons, but generally sigma bonds doesn't involve in resonance. That means they will not move. Generally, sigma bonds will not move, right? They will be localized, right? They'll not be moving. Okay. So that is why sometimes hyperconjugation can also be called as sigma bond resonance, because sigma bond is involved in movement, right? So resonance is only talking about the movement of electrons. Okay, fine. Now these pi electrons, what are they? Okay, now obviously these electrons can be there in a pi bond, definitely. Okay, or it can be electrons in the form of lone pairs, LPs. Okay. They can also be called as pi electrons, or they can be also in the form of a negative charge. Okay. Now all these 3 can involve in resonance in the sense that all these 3 can move. Electrons involved in a pi bond, electrons involved in lone pairs, electrons involved as a negative charge. All of them can involve in movement. That means resonance. All these electrons, type of electrons, can move. If they move, that phenomenon is what is called as resonance. Okay, right. Now maybe we will start with something very simple. Okay. Now we will go to this, say, younger brother of resonance. I have something called as back bonding. Okay. Now if you can understand back bonding, you can understand resonance. Okay. Now these two are almost same, but there are little subtle differences. Okay. Now, for me to explain back bonding, let me take the example of BF3 molecule.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, could you explain what is resonance?
Sure. No, we didn't see what is resonance. I just gave you what is the definition of resonance, nothing else. Just take to the resonance now. Just
yes, sir. What is that? Please, sir. The first word you wrote after resonance.
Oh, nothing. I'm telling it. The resonance means movement or delocalization. Delocalization means movement of pi electron. These electrons are going to move. Okay. Now, what can be pi electrons? It can be electrons involved in a pi bond, or electrons in the form of lone pairs, or electrons involved in the form of a negative charge. Okay. All of them can That's what I told. We didn't see anything else. Don't worry. Okay, I just gave you the definition. Okay, now for us to understand resonance, we will understand a little more trivial aspect of resonance called as back bonding. And for that, I'm taking the example of BF3. Okay, right. And before I move on, I wanted to ask you, did you do acidic strength, basic strength, all these things in your school for in this chapter? They gave you 2 carboxylic acids and they asked you to decide which is more acidic, which is less acidic. Did you do that in this class, in this chapter in your school?
No, sir.
You didn't do, right? Basic strength. Say if did they ask you like this? Say if I have HCOOH and CH3COOH, which is more acidic? Did you solve these kind of questions? It's not there, I guess, right? All I saw was intermediates. Intermediates, their electron displacement effects, that is whatever we are seeing, and at last you're going for types of chemical reactions. That only is there, isn't it? These things are not there. I think these questions are deleted. Okay, anyways, fine. Actually, if they are there, it would have been more fun, right? But thank God they are there, because that will take a lot of time. Okay, anyways, so we will try to understand what do you mean by back bonding. Okay, now BF3, we will call them as Lewis acids. Okay, I think we already spoke about this point when we talked about electrophiles and nucleophiles. Okay, can someone tell me how do you define Lewis acids? How do you define, there's something called as Lewis acids. How do you define them? We saw this when we went to saw what was electrophiles and nucleophiles.
Electron acceptors.
Electron acceptors, right? So Lewis acid is something which can accept a lone pair. Okay, a Lewis acid is something which can accept a lone pair of electrons coming from something else. Okay, so obviously all these Lewis acids should be electron deficient. Only then they will be able to accept electrons. Only if they don't have enough electrons, they will still take up electrons. Is it not? Right. So all Lewis acids are generally electron deficient. That is why they can act as electrophiles. Hope you all remember what is electrophiles, what is nucleophiles. All right. Okay. So now I'm telling that this BF3 is a Lewis acid. That means it should be electron deficient. Right. Now, how can I prove that this is electron deficient? Very simple. Boron has atomic number 5, 2,3 configuration, electronic configuration. Right. Now, one fluorine atom will give 1 electron, another fluorine atom 1, another fluorine atom 1. Totally 3 electrons are coming from fluorine. Sorry. Right. 1 electron each. Right. So the configuration now would have become 2,6, because already it had 3 electrons, 3 more electrons coming from F electrons. Okay. So the configuration now becomes 2,6, but still it is not stable, right? Octet is not satisfied. Is it not? For me to have stability, this should have been 8. 2,8, if it is there, it is stable, octet satisfied. Right? So this is still is electron deficient. That is why this is going to act as a Lewis acid. I hope everybody gets this point. I need to have 8, but I have only 6. Same goes with your beryllium chloride also. If you check BeCl2, you have 2,2 configuration. Each chlorine atom, 1 electron, 2 chlorine electrons, right? It becomes 2,4. Again, electron deficient. 1 second, people. Okay, so again, electron deficient should have had 2,8, but still has only 2,4. Even after the bonding, is completed. Again, even after the bonding is completed, only one second, guys. 1 second, just a moment. Okay. right? So we established the fact that this BF3 is, oh God. Thank you so much. Okay, so what I was telling is now we have established the fact that BF3 is a Lewis acid because it is electron deficient. Okay, so now what can happen is since it can still accept 2 more electrons, right? It can accept 2 more electrons. Now you see that there are lone pairs present on all the fluorine atoms. 3 lone pairs are present, right? Okay, there are 3 lone pairs present on each of the fluorine atoms. Okay, so what is going to happen is this lone pair, since boron is still electron deficient, this lone pair can come here and make a bond, right? This lone pair can come here and make a bond. That means this lone pair is going to get donated to boron so that it is going to become 2,8. Okay, so how do I represent it? This is how I represent it. Already I have B, F, F, and F. Now 1 electron was, like 2 electrons were getting donated to boron in the form of a coordinate bond, right? So now I represent a coordinate bond like this from fluorine to boron, right? Obviously now I would have had a positive charge on what? On your fluorine because it has lost electron, right? And there are only 2 more lone pairs. Other 3 has 3 lone pairs. Okay, now this phenomenon, whatever we are seeing, is what is called as back bonding. Okay, this phenomenon, whatever we are seeing, is what is called as back bonding. Okay, so I have fluorine is unpaired electrons. Sorry, lone pair of electron is getting donated to boron because boron is still an electron deficient species. It has only 6 electrons in its valence shell, right? So instead of boron looking like this, all single bonds, if you actually look into it, you will see that it is going to be, one of them will be going to be a double bond. Why only one of them? Obviously, at a time, only 1 fluorine can involve in this, right? Maybe this can go back, right? And the next fluorine can come. That is possible. But again, when this bond is already there, you cannot have another fluorine's lone pairs coming into the picture. That is not possible. Okay. Now, this phenomenon is what is called as back bonding. Okay, so whenever you have the central metal atom to have an empty orbital, like say this, I know this thing is sp2 hybridized, so I still have one of the p orbital to be empty, right? So I still have one empty p orbital, so that can be involved in accepting the lone pair coming from fluorine. This example is what, in this phenomenon is what is called as lone pair, sorry, back bonding. Okay, now because of back bonding, what is going to happen, right? 2 things. One is the bond length. Okay, now what you see here, if you deny the fact that the back bonding is going to be there, if back bonding was not there, right? Now this BF bond would have been a big bond, a long bond, because it's going to be only a single bond, right? But now what is happening? Because of back bonding, I am actually bringing close. I mean, I'm bringing boron and fluorine little closer. So the bond length decreases, right? So I would have expected, I'm giving you a random number. I would have expected, say, 150 picometers as the bond length for BF3. I would have predicted. Okay, but what I see in reality is only 125 picometers. Why? Because I expected only the single bonds to be there, but because of back bonding, there is one double bond coming. So that is reducing the bond length. Okay, I hope you get this point, right? I expected some higher bond length, but since back bonding is happening, that is introducing a double bond into the picture, the bond length is reducing, right? So the first consequence is this. Okay, now please understand, the back bonding can happen. First, I need to have electrons to be donated. Definitely, if fluorine doesn't have a lone pair, this will not happen. Second thing is, whichever atom is accepting the electron should have some empty space, right? There should be electron deficient, only then this can happen. Or in other words, I can tell that I should have an empty orbital present for me to accommodate the electrons. Okay, right? So definitely two criteria. So one is that I have the bond length to be decreasing, right? The other one is that the Lewis acidic character, right? Now, what is happening to that? Now, if BF3 was just like this, only single bonds, now boron was having an boron was having an empty orbital. So what can happen? If say I have BF3 reacting with ammonia, this lone pair could have been donated to boron. Now this is going to act as a Lewis base. Sorry, Lewis acid. Okay, and this is going to act as a Lewis base. Whichever is able to donate electron is Lewis base, accepting electron is Lewis acid. Okay, now if this BF3 was normal, no back bonding was happening, it would have accepted a lone pair from some other species, right? So now what you have to understand is, just because it is accepting lone pair here, that doesn't mean that it is Lewis acid here. It has to accept lone pair from some other compound, not from the same compound. Again, I repeat, for something to be a Lewis acid, it has to accept lone pair or an electron from some other species, not from the same species. Okay, now this, if it happens, yes, I can call your BF3 as Lewis acid. Okay, but can't you see that because of this back bonding, right? Because of this lone pair present and it is having an empty orbital, and because of this bond formation, what is happening? It already has 8 electrons, right? Right. So if it obviously cannot accept 2 more electrons because it's already full now, right? So what is happening? The ability to the ability to accept electron is decreasing. Why? Because I'm already filling up the electron in the form of a back bond. Right. So what has happened? Lewis acidic character. What is Lewis acidic character? Ability to accept a lone pair of electron, that is decreased because of back bonding. Right. This also decreases. Okay. This also decreases because now it is already having 8 electrons. So if I make it react with ammonia, it's not like it will not react, but the reactivity will be very, very less because I'm going to have this back bonding happening. Already 8 electrons are there. So the back bonding ability, the Lewis acidic character ability decreases. Okay.
Oh, sir.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Sir, can back bonding happen when the central atom needs only one more electron to complete its configuration?
No. One more electron, no. I need, see, what you're seeing here is a bond. I need to have 2 electrons in the form of a coordinate bond. I cannot form bond with 1 electron, right? Okay, I need to have 2 electrons for bond. It's a back bond. Yes, okay.
Okay, sir.
Right, good. Now, let us compare this, okay? Even though this is irrelevant to this, but we can compare this. Let me compare BF3, BCl3, and BBr3. Okay, this is going to be relevant even to your resonance, but that's why we are seeing this. Okay, now if I ask you to arrange them in the order of Lewis acidic strength, right? Which is a stronger Lewis acid, which is a weaker Lewis acid we are trying to see. Okay, now please understand that B, F, 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 I have a lone pair involving in back bonding. Again, B, Cl, Cl.